Picture a monastery library in the mountains of Ethiopia. The year is 1892. A German scholar named Oscar von Lem is examining manuscripts that European churches insisted did not exist. In his hands is a Coptic prayer book dated to the 2nd century. He translates page after page of familiar liturgies until he reaches a section that makes him stop breathing. Written in red ink, set apart from everything else, is a prayer labeled the utterance of direct passage. Beneath it, a warning in Greek, to be spoken only once in a lifetime, to be taught only to those who have counted the cost. Von Lem copied the prayer into his personal journal. He never published it. When colleagues asked what he found in Ethiopia, he would only say, "Some doors are not meant for academic discussion." His journal disappeared after his death. The monastery burned during the Italian invasion of 1936. But 3 copies of that prayer survived in 3 different locations, hidden by 3 different keepers who never met, who did not know the others existed, yet who all recognized that what they protected could not be allowed to vanish. Tonight, you are going to hear the prayer that 99% of believers have never encountered, not because it is secret in some conspiracy sense, but because the religious systems you were raised in could not allow it to spread. This prayer does not ask heaven to open. It does not beg for God's attention. It does not plead for worthiness. This prayer commands reality itself to recognize what you actually are. And when spoken under the right conditions, with the right understanding in the right state, it does not take days or years to work. It works instantly. Before we go further, subscribe to this channel right now. What you are about to receive is not entertainment. It is activation. Turn on notifications because the teachings coming after this one will build on what happens to you tonight. If you are watching this in a moment of desperation, if you found this video when you were searching for breakthrough, comment the words, "Open the gate below." That declaration matters. Not to me, but to whatever force guided you here at this exact moment. Place both hands on your chest right now. Feel your heartbeat. Feel the rise and fall of your breath. What I am about to share with you comes from a transmission that predates the organized church by decades. It comes from the period when the apostles were still alive, when the people who actually walked with Jesus were still teaching in hidden rooms, still passing on what could not be written safely, still activating those who were ready for direct access. To understand why this prayer works instantly, you first need to understand what prayer actually is. You were taught that prayer is communication with a distant God. You were taught that you speak up toward heaven and hope someone is listening. You were taught that the quality of your language, the sincerity of your emotion, and the correctness of your theology determine whether your prayer gets through. This is not wrong exactly. It is just incomplete. It is the elementary version given to people who are not ready for the advanced truth. The advanced truth is this: prayer is not communication. Prayer is frequency alignment. When you pray, you are not sending a message to an external being. You are tuning your consciousness to match a specific bandwidth of reality. And here is the part that changes everything. Heaven is not a location. Heaven is a frequency. It is a state of existence that is always present, always accessible, always broadcasting. But most humans cannot perceive it because their consciousness is tuned to a different station. They are locked into the frequency of survival, of fear, of separation, of lack. From that bandwidth, heaven does not exist, not because it is far away, but because it is on a channel they are not tuned to. Jesus understood this completely. Every parable, every teaching, every miracle was about shifting frequency. When he said, "The kingdom of heaven is within you," he was not being poetic. He was giving you the literal location. Heaven is not above you. It is inside you, operating at a frequency that your normal waking consciousness cannot access. Until now, the prayer you are about to learn was never meant for crowds. In the Gospel of Thomas, which was discovered in Egypt in 1945, Jesus says, "I disclose my mysteries to those who are worthy of my mysteries." This is not elitism. This is energetic precision. Some teachings activate. Some teachings destroy. The same fire that warms also burns. The prayer of direct passage was given only to those who had been prepared. Those who understood that heaven's gates do not open because you are good enough. They open because you remember what you are. Let me take you back to the moment this prayer was first spoken. Jesus has been crucified. He has risen. But the resurrection appearances described in your Bible are edited versions. The full accounts were too radical, too direct, too empowering for institutional control. In the 40 days between resurrection and ascension, Jesus appears to his followers not once or twice, but dozens of times. And in these appearances, he teaches what he could not teach before his death. Why? Because they were not ready. They still saw him as a man, as a rabbi, as a leader. But after watching him die and then return, something in them broke open. They were finally ready to understand that he was not showing them what he could do. He was showing them what they could become. In one of these appearances, documented in text the early church fathers tried desperately to suppress, Jesus takes Peter, James, John, and Mary Magdalene up to a hillside outside Jerusalem. He tells them, "What I am about to give you is not for the multitudes. The multitudes need commandments. They need stories. They need structure. But you are ready for direct passage." Then he speaks a prayer, not in Aramaic, but in a language none of them recognize. Later, Mary Magdalene would describe it as the language of before, the language that existed before Babel, before division, before humans forgot they were one consciousness expressing as many. When Jesus finishes speaking, all four of them report the same experience. The sky does not open. Instead, something inside their chests opens, a gate they did not know existed. And through that gate comes a rush of knowing so complete, so total, that for a moment they cannot tell where they end and eternity begins. Peter later tries to describe it in his second letter, the one that almost did not make it into the Bible. He calls it being partakers of the divine nature. That phrase got past the censors because it sounds humble. But what Peter experienced on that hillside was not humble. It was absolute. It was a direct recognition that the same consciousness that fills the cosmos also fills him. No separation, no distance, no barrier between human and divine. Here is what the church could not allow you to know. Jesus did not die to open heaven for you. He died to show you that death itself is the illusion that keeps heaven's gates appearing closed. The gates were never closed. You were simply looking at them from the wrong frequency. And the prayer he gave on that hillside is the key that shifts your frequency instantly. Take a deep breath right now. In through your nose. Hold it. Now release completely. What I am about to give you is the English translation of the prayer. The original language cannot be written in modern script, but the translation carries the same frequency encoding. The words themselves are secondary. The state you are in when you speak them is everything. Here's a prayer. I am the breath that God breathes. I am the light that cannot be extinguished. I am the gate through which eternity enters time. I recognize myself, and heaven recognizes me. Now, that is it. 7 sentences, 43 words. And when spoken correctly, it recalibrates your entire relationship with reality in seconds. But here is what you must understand. This is not a magic spell. Speaking these words casually will do nothing. Speaking them while distracted will do nothing. Speaking them because you want something will do nothing. This prayer only works when you meet 3 specific conditions. Miss even one of these conditions, and the words remain just words. But meet all 3, and I promise you, you will feel something shift that cannot be undone. The first condition is desperation, not mild interest, not spiritual curiosity. Desperation. The prayer of direct passage only activates when you have reached the end of your own ability to fix yourself, save yourself, or figure out on your own. Jesus said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit." Poor in spirit does not mean humble in the cute sense. It means bankrupt. It means you have spent every resource you had tried to reach heaven through effort, through goodness, through belief, and you have nothing left. That bankruptcy is not failure. That bankruptcy is the entrance fee. Because only when you stop trying to climb up to heaven can you recognize that heaven is already inside you, waiting to be noticed. The second condition is solitude. This prayer cannot be spoken in a group. It cannot be spoken in a church service. It cannot be spoken with others around. Why? Because the moment heaven's gates open inside you, the frequency shift is so radical that other people's energy will interfere. Their doubt, their fear, their questions will create static. This is between you and Source. No witnesses, No audience, just you in a room alone, speaking to the consciousness that has been waiting your entire life for you to remember. The third condition is singularity. The prayer of direct passage is called that because it opens a passage you only walk through once. You cannot speak this prayer repeatedly. You cannot test it out to see if it works. The moment you speak it with all three conditions met, something inside you unlocks permanently. The gate swings open, and it does not close again. This is why the ancient text carried a warning. Once you speak this prayer correctly, you cannot go back to normal religion. You cannot pretend that heaven is somewhere else. You cannot unsee what you will see. So count the cost before you speak. Now let me tell you exactly what happens the moment you complete this prayer under the right conditions. The first thing you will notice is temperature. Most people report sudden, intense warmth that begins in the chest and spreads outward. Some describe it as fire, but fire that does not burn. Others describe it as liquid light pouring into their body. This is not metaphor. This is your nervous system responding to a frequency it has never encountered before. The second thing is tears. Not sad tears, not happy tears. Tears of recognition. Your soul crying out, Finally, I am home. Let the tears come. Do not stop them. They are washing away years of separation, years of believing you were unworthy, years of thinking heaven was something you had to earn. The third thing is knowing. Suddenly, without anyone teaching you, you will know things you could not know. You will know that death is not real. You will know that you have lived before. You will know that the person you think you are is a character, and the real you is the one watching the character. This knowing does not come from thought. It comes from direct perception. The gate is open, and you are seeing through it. The fourth thing is presence. Time will stop feeling linear. The past and future will lose their weight. You will become so rooted in this exact moment that nothing outside of now will seem to matter. This is not dissociation. This is the opposite. This is full association with reality as it actually is, unfiltered by memory or anticipation. The fifth thing, and this is the one that proves a prayer worked, is that you will stop asking if the prayer worked. When heaven's gates open, there is no question. There is no wondering. There is only the undeniable recognition that you are not who you thought you were, and everything you were taught about separation from God was a lie. But I need to warn you about what comes after. The religious system you were part of will no longer make sense. Sermons that once moved you will sound hollow. Rituals that once comforted you will feel empty, not because they are bad, but because you have tasted direct access, and you cannot go back to secondhand religion. Some of your relationships will change. People who are close to you will sense something different, and they will either be drawn to it or threatened by it. Do not try to convince them. Do not try to explain. You cannot give someone this experience through explanation. They must find the prayer themselves when they are desperate enough, alone enough, ready enough. Here is why most believers never say this prayer. It is not hidden in some vault. It is not kept secret by a shadowy organization. It is hidden in plain sight, written off as heresy, dismissed as mysticism, excluded from the canon, because the men who decided what books belonged in your Bible knew exactly what this prayer would do to their authority structure. If ordinary believers could open heaven's gates instantly, what would they need priests for? If direct access was available, why would anyone sit through another service, another tithe, another year being told they were not quite good enough yet? The church, was built on distance. Distance between you and God. Distance that required a mediator, a system, a hierarchy. This prayer collapses that distance. And the moment the distance collapses, the entire control structure becomes irrelevant. This is not an attack on sincere believers or faithful pastors. This is simply the truth that institutions built on mediation cannot survive direct access. The profound shift this prayer initiates is nothing less than a complete inversion of your perceived reality. For your entire life, you've been taught to seek, to strive, to ascend, to earn. The religious impulse, as channeled through institutions, is almost universally directed outward and upward, a constant movement away from the self toward a distant, perfect ideal. The utterance of direct passage is a perfect antidote to this centuries-long misdirection. It is a deceleration. It is a collapse of the perceived journey. It is the realization that the distance you were trying to cross was an illusion created by a flawed premise, the idea of separation. Imagine trying to find a magnificent diamond that is already in your hand. Every step you take, every far-off mountain you climb, every shovel you dig into the earth is an act of supreme effort based on a categorical misunderstanding. When you finally stop, utterly exhausted, and simply open your palm, there it is. The diamond was the seeking. The effort was the blindness. The moment of recognition is the prayer. This realization is why the church fathers feared this teaching. They did not fear the prayer's power to connect you to God. They feared its power to disconnect you from them. A mediator is only necessary when distance exists. If the gate is within you, if the frequency is accessible instantly, the entire profession of mediation becomes redundant. This is not anti-spiritual. It is hyper-spiritual. It is the ultimate honoring of the original, uncorrupted transmission of the Christ consciousness, the absolute, non-negotiable divinity of the individual. Think about the structure of the prayer itself. It contains no request. It has no please or grant or forgive. It is not a petition. It is a declaration of existing fact. I am the breath that God breathes. This is a statement of identity, not aspiration. It bypasses the need for worthiness, because it affirms a condition that is prior to any action you could ever take, good or bad. You don't have to be good enough to be the breath God breathes. You are the breath, by definition, of your existence. This removes the entire moral framework of earning salvation, replacing it with the energetic framework of recognition. I am the light that cannot be extinguished. This challenges the core teaching of human frailty and sinfulness. It states that the essential core of your being is indestructible, uncorruptible, and eternally radiant. The shadows of doubt, fear, and self-criticism are merely temporary occlusions, not the substance of who you are. When you speak this line, you are calling forth the memory of your own eternal nature. You are declaring bankruptcy not on your spirit, but on the false stories you have accepted about your spirit. I am the gate through which eternity enters time. This line is the deepest secret of all. It posits you not merely as a receiver of divine energy, but as the active, necessary point of convergence. You are a location where the infinite eternity meets the finite time. You are not passive. You are the mechanism. The cosmic is not waiting above the sky. It is waiting in your chest, held back only by your lack of recognition. You are the passage. You are the door. I recognize myself, and heaven recognizes me. Now! This is the activation code. The sequence is vital. You must recognize yourself first. The external reality, heaven, only responds to your internal state of knowing. It is not waiting for a signal from outside. It is waiting for the signal from within. And the word now is a deliberate, powerful frequency anchor. It collapses all hesitation, all delay, all future tense, striving into the radical immediacy of the present moment. It is the energetic equivalent of flipping a master switch. When you sit alone, desperate, ready, and you speak this utterance, you are not summoning a presence. You are dismantling an absence. The absence was the space you created between yourself and your source through years of institutional programming. That absence is a phantom limb of consciousness. The warmth you feel, the tears that fall, the sudden knowing, these are not miracles in the sense of something being externally imposed. They're the organic, unavoidable response of a system returning to its default, optimal operating frequency. The transition after this prayer is often subtle in the world but tectonic in your soul. You will find that you no longer need external validation for your existence. The desperate chase for approval, for belonging, for spiritual certainty, fades because the source of all certainty is now an internal resonance. Your decisions will become simpler, not because life gets easier, but because your internal tuning fork is perfectly aligned. You are making choices from a frequency of wholeness, not lack. This path, the path of direct passage, is a true legacy of the apostles who had their eyes open on that hillside. They went on to transform the world not by preaching complicated theology, but by embodying a radical, undeniable wholeness. They walked as people who knew they were the gate. They did not teach others to worship Jesus. They taught others to become Christ, to access the same divine nature Peter spoke of. The final warning from the ancient text remains. Count the cost. The cost is the loss of your old self, the destruction of your comfortable separation, and the end of all excuses for living a small life. When you speak the prayer, you are signing an agreement with your own ultimate nature, an agreement that once ratified cannot be annulled. You step into the constant, inescapable presence of eternity. The gate is inside you. All that remains is for you to finally utter the words of recognition. So here's how you actually practice this. Tonight, after you finish watching this video, wait until the house is quiet. Turn off your phone, lock your door, sit in a chair, or lie on your bed. Place your hands over your heart. Close your eyes. And before you speak the prayer, ask yourself this question: am I desperate enough? Am I truly done trying to earn heaven? Am I ready to see what I actually am? If the answer is yes, if you feel that desperation rise in your chest, speak the prayer slowly, not in your head, out loud. Let your voice carry the words into the air. I am the breath that God breathes. I am the light that cannot be extinguished. I am the gate through which eternity enters time. I recognize myself, and heaven recognizes me. Now, then sit in silence. Do not rush. Do not immediately check if something happened. Just sit. Just breathe. Just allow. The gate is opening. You will know if this teaching has activated something inside you. Comment, I am the gate below. Let other seekers know they're not alone. Subscribe to this channel, because what comes next will take you even deeper. Like this video so others who are desperate enough can find it. 1 prayer, 3 conditions. Instant activation. You were never outside of heaven. You were simply tuned to the wrong frequency. Now you know how to tune back. Now you know the prayer that Jesus gave to those who were ready. The gate is inside you. It always has been. And the moment you speak the words, heaven will recognize what is always known. You were never separate. You were never lost. You were just waiting to remember.